What is up, everybody? I am George Mossey. Say hello to my co-host Cherona. So it's the George Mossey. So Darcey and Stacey, season 4, episode 7. So there's a lot to talk about because Darcey got a blindsiding text from Florian that kind of explained to her out of nowhere that George is in Miami and he wants them to meet up and have a conversation. And Stacey didn't give any type of heads up about this text, but we did learn in the episode Stacey was unaware of the text until the text already went out. So she felt like there was no need to really do anything damage control wise because the text is already out there. It's happened. Darcey has to decide whether or not she's going to show up to the meeting or not. And I feel like it was really bad timing, right? Because it's right around the time that she's having her first date, official first date with Cicero. And she's like conjuring up old feelings while she's trying to build new feelings and connection with someone else. And I feel like that's a recipe for disaster because when old relationship is still around and conjuring up feelings, your new relationship, it kind of confuses you and puts you in a state of what do I really want? What do I really want to do with my life? Do I want to start over new with a brand new person? Or do I want to go back and make things work with a person who wasn't doing well at the time, but is now doing amazing? So I feel like Darcey is very confused.
Yeah, I feel like that too, but I feel like she stayed really strong like the whole time. Like she still went on her date with Cicero and then she still faced Georgie. Ugh, but I feel like she did really good. I mean, it's confused. That is super confusing, but I feel like she handled herself very well.
So let's talk about this song. So they went to the studio with their producer Phil, and Phil is the same guy that they worked on their ballad with that they had produced and sang for their brother Michael. And Phil is like, they're not the best singers, but I can make it work. And I was surprised at how natural the lyrics were coming to them because songwriting is like the most difficult thing in the world. Like you can learn to play an instrument, you can find the right beat. Finding the right lyrics is the harder part. And Darcey and Stacey literally, they were just like play the track and they were just like writing it down like it was nothing. So I was very surprised by that. Aspen was not as happy with the lyrics. She was just like, well, my ears are bleeding now and they're a bit tone deaf, but my mom, they mean well, they have amazing energy. And I was like, it's really about the energy, right? When you go to a concert, you want to see energy. They don't necessarily have to knock your socks off with their vocals, but you don't want to sit there and like somebody stand in one spot for an hour and a half. So the energy is important. So Aspen is right. You got to keep that energy up.
Oh, and they have the energy for sure. So, I mean, they brought the energy for like definitely. And I feel like the song is going to be great once it's, like Aspen said, auto tune.
Auto-tuned and mixed, right? Because Doing It Big is still one of my favorite tracks by the
Yep.
girls. Like I feel like every time the show comes on, I want it to keep playing and I can start dancing to it. It's a good song. So I
Yes.
know that Phil is gonna work his magic and it's gonna be a huge song. And oh, did I mention this is for the Impossible Kicks launch? So the launch party at the Impossible Kicks brick and mortar store. This is where they're gonna, I don't know, play the song or perform the song because I know performing is something they love to do. So I don't know which one we're gonna get. Last season, we did get a performance of Doing It Big. So I don't know, Darcey and Stacey, if you're going to give us that performance or not. I would like you to, but I can't predict the future. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So I want to talk about the idea of Georgie taking Florian jet skiing. So last season, Georgie wasn't able to do a lot, at all because he had a money issues going on with his business and his job. And even Darcey brought it up. She's like, I had to drive him around. He didn't have a car. He had all these issues. Now he has money to spend and money to waste. And that is really, conjuring up thoughts in Darcey's mind. She's like, he's gotten his life together. And it's like the biggest issue we had in our relationship was he didn't have his life choices together. And now that his life choices are good, Darcey is like, I don't know. He looks like a different person. And Florian was actually on a jet ski going like 60 miles an hour and he can't swim. Now, I know everybody who watches my podcast knows I can't swim. And there's absolutely no chance you'll catch me anywhere in a body of water larger than a bathtub. I just won't. Like, I've had people offer to pay to take me on cruises. And I was like, there's no way you're taking me out into the ocean so I can die. Like, no, there's absolutely no chance. Like, I watched the show Cruise Ship Killers and I know that people throw people overboard, but I don't even think that would happen to me. I feel like the whole ship would just sink. Right? That's just my luck, right? I know that happens like maybe once every 40 years, but I'd be on that ship and I'm not doing that. So Florian has no fear. And I respect that for him because if you could pay me $500,000 to go out on a jet ski, even with a life jacket on, and I would politely decline.
I mean,
I couldn't do it.
I would do it. I mean, I know how to swim, though. I
Well,
guess living at a beach city, you learn. I grew up with a pool, but like, I'm glad that he did it. You know what? Maybe Florian can get you out there. He could.
Florian, teach me how to be fearless. I could drown by someone pouring water over my face. So, like, teach me how to be fearless. So, I want to talk about the Lamborghini date. That's how I've been referring to it because Cicero shows up in a yellow Lambo to pick up Darcey, and he takes her out on this amazing date overlooking Miami Beach, by the way, which is a
Hmm.
beautiful rooftop restaurant where they had drinks. And the date went really well. Darcey was talking about, past struggles, past relationships, but he was also opening up as well. I was loving to see them getting to know each other and things in their past, which I think is good. But
Hmm.
Darcey did get a bit emotional on the date. So how do you feel about that? Like if you're on a first date, is it okay to get emotional and cry or shed some tears? Or do you think you need to hold it together to make sure that that person is accustomed to you as a person before they get accustomed to you kind of losing it? Because a lot of people at home are like, well, Darcey, you got to scare him away. You can't cry on the first date because then he's going to be afraid. And that's kind of how it looks because he was like, oh, I have to go. And then he kind of left her at the venue. He didn't offer her a ride home, even though I don't think that's the case. I don't know Cicero. That could be the case. So, like, what do you
Hmm.
think is going on? Do you think he's terrified?
I mean, honestly, I personally probably would never do something like that because I'm like emotionless when it comes to stuff like that. Like I don't really cry unless like I really know someone that I'll cry in front of them. But at the same time, like she's being her authentic self, she's being open. So I mean, you got to take that like that's a big thing, you know? If someone's just going to kind of show you all of them, like I feel like people should like that. I mean, yes, I could see it being scary, and yes, I could see it scaring some people away, but if it scares you away, that's not the right person for you.
True. I mean, you have to trust someone and feel that they are open to knowing you well to cry
Yeah.
in front of them. So, I mean, that might have shown that she has an emotional connection with him.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we know what's going on in his mind. He might think it's something different. But we did hear Michelle, the matchmaker, after the date, have a little talk about the date with Darcey, and she said that Cicero is smitten by Darcey, which that means that he is definitely feeling her. He wasn't scared of that situation. So we did get some information that is going to come out next week. I don't want to harp on that because we don't have the full story, but there is a photo and things about Cicero that we're going to learn later. And it couldn't come at a worse time because Georgie's in town. And I kind of want
Uh,
to talk about this conversation that Darcey had with Florian about Georgie being a manipulator. And Florian doesn't believe it, even though it is true, because every time Georgie and Florian have an interaction, it's like one question about Florian and 10 questions about Darcey. So it is what it is. He wants to be back with her. It's super clear, but he has been working on himself because he has been kind of bragging, like Darcey said, about how well he's doing. He's gotten his business up and running. He's mobile again. He has things going on. He has goals. He has things that he's working towards. And I know that that's impressive, but is it too late? Because I feel like 2 years they did date, and the whole 2 years, the same fights, right? And it was always about money, finances, job. And if he's, I don't know, what do you call it? If he's accomplished that, like he's changed that, is there any room for them to work on a relationship? Because some people are saying, well, if the only issue she had with him was he didn't have a car and he didn't have a job and now he has both, why not just start back up and build from what you had? Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's too far gone, or do you feel like it's a possibility that they can start fresh?
oh, I feel like that's hard because I feel like personally that sometimes you could be in a relationship with someone for like 20 years and they're not living up to the standards that you want. And then you break up with them, you have space, and then they fix whatever you wanted them to fix. But sometimes, like, it's just a little too late. Like you wanted all of that in your relationship wasn't fulfilled, and then finally they get it
Right.
together and then they come back and they're like, "Well, now I'm ready." It's like, "Okay, well, it's kind of a little too late. I waited for you for
Yeah.
the whole time we were together and you showed me nothing. And now you come back and you're like, "Well, I got it together." But it's like, "I've moved on. Like I expected this from you when we were together." So
Yeah.
like, I mean, you potentially anyone could try to pick up an old flame. and run with it. But I feel like even though their relationship, we don't know everything. There could have been other
Right.
things behind closed doors. I mean, he lied to her about being married or whatever that was. I feel like that was the correct thing. Like he wasn't fully open about like his wife. There
Right.
still were
And
other,
the
it wasn't,
divorce. Yeah.
yes, it wasn't all the money. He still was shady.
True, true.
So,
So even the diamond necklace that he
ugh.
offered up to Darcey, because he's like, "Oh, I know how much you love diamonds, so I'm gonna offer up this peace offering of a diamond necklace to you." I didn't like it, and I'm gonna say why. I didn't like it because he made it seem like Darcey was some sort of gold digger, and I was
Yes.
like, "So what pisses me off is she paid for everything for you for 2 years. Now you're gonna come here and make it seem like you can win her back with a necklace, as though if she wanted diamond necklaces, there were plenty of men who could have bought her diamond necklaces the whole time she was with you. So she clearly didn't care about stuff like that. So when
Mhm.
he offered that up as like a peace offering, I was like, see, that's kind of rude and disrespectful because
Mhm.
she can buy, first of all, she can buy her own. Second of all, if she wanted a man to do that, she could have gotten one, but she still stuck with you for 2 years knowing that you could never do that. So I was
Mhm.
like, you're coming at her and it's very superficial. Like, if you want to apologize for the things that you did, then do that. But don't just hand her some sort of necklace and be like, okay, everything is good now because this is the type of stuff you like. I really hated that.
Yeah, I really did too. I was like, is he freaking kidding? Just like you said, if Darcey wants a diamond necklace, she will buy that diamond necklace. She'll buy 30 of them. She doesn't need some sorry little gift from Georgie because he thinks now all of a sudden he can try to right his wrongs. Obviously, it didn't work. She's like, I'm sorry, but I can't accept this. I get where she's coming from, and I see why she was so angry because I would do the same thing. I feel like anyone would. Like, what did he think this little necklace is just gonna make her like fall into his arms and fall in love with him again? Like, no, not at all. Oh my god, that was something.
All the time that passed, and he was just like ignoring the fact that she has made strides to move on, and I didn't like that either. He was like
Nope.
dismissing her feelings and dismissing all the work that she's put in, because he's like, oh, I heard you're dating. I don't like to hear that. Well, she didn't like to hear about your old marriage, and she didn't like to hear about you not being able to find a job, but she's trying to move on. And it's like, I hated the way he was manipulating Florian as well, because Florian
Mhm.
is really lonely. He's in another country, and then he moved from Connecticut to Miami, and he's looking for a true friendship. And Georgie doesn't want to be Florian's friend. Like, I don't care what he says. Every time they talk, the conversation always goes to the same place. It's always, what's Darcey doing? Who's Darcey dating? What's Darcey think
Mhm.
about me? Do you think Darcey will be mad if I show up at the wedding? And he's playing him. And I hate that too. And
Mhm.
it's like, Georgie, I get that you want to be with Darcey, but if you can't communicate and reach out to Darcey on your own, you can't use Florian to be
Mhm.
that line of communication. That is completely unfair. He's a human being, a person with feelings, and he used him. And even Stacey said it. She's like, this is your fault. She's like,
Yeah.
you brought him here and you let him manipulate you. And now look at this. You're ruining everything. And it's like, it's kind of true. I'm blaming a lot of this on Florian.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, come on. He's totally being manipulated. How does he not see that? The only thing that Georgie cares about is what Darcey's doing. And I don't like the fact that like Florian and Georgie were talking about like, oh, well, just because this guy has a nice car and money, that doesn't mean he has a good heart. Like anyone could have a good heart. You could have money, you could not have money. You could
Yep.
also not have money and have a bad heart. So it goes both ways. They're just talking crap because Georgie's not doing what this new guy's doing. And Florian is
Yeah.
just offering up all the tea. It's like, Florian, no, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, it didn't help his case by him saying, "Oh, well, I did give all the information about it, and I did tell him everything about Darcey's life and her
Uh,
dating life. I just was trying to be a good friend." No, that's not what a good friend does.
no,
That's a narc. That's a narc. There's a difference
a
between the
rat.
two. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for this episode of the George Mossey Show. We're talking Darcey and Stacey, season 4, episode 7. Next week, we will be talking about the huge blow up between Darcey and Cicero and this photo with another woman. I can't wait to discuss it when we get more information. Thank you so much to my co-host Cherona. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, georgemossey.com, and anywhere you get your podcast. And make sure you're following my co-host Cherona as well. Her links are right here at the bottom. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to all of you guys really soon.